Are you looking for true personal freedom? The freedom to design a life you truly desire? Then you're absolutely in the right place. True personal freedom comes from when you take 100% responsibility and control of your money and your mind. Here, you're going to learn ideas, tips, and wisdom that's going to help you bridge the gap from where you are now to your dream life in the future. My name is Randy Wilson, and welcome to the RichMind Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the RichMind Podcast. And today I've got a an encore interview here. Greg Junge was on the episode or on the podcast back on episode number 20. I looked that up here before we jumped on, episode 20. So it's like you're famous. I think we're at this point in the 60s-ish time frame as far as the episodes for the RichMind Podcast. So yeah, if you want to check out Greg's interview that we did back then, that would be fantastic. We'll try to get that linked up in the show notes as well. But today, just wanted to bring Greg on, trying to test out this new platform, trying to see if this doesn't work a little bit better as far as the creation of the video part. The audio, if you're listening to this on audio, it probably isn't going to be much different. But if you ever catch us over on YouTube, you can follow me and the RichMind Podcast on YouTube, searching for my name at youtube.com/@Randy Wilson. And you should get and see the RichMind Podcast there on YouTube as well. And you can follow the videos. I also post different things that you won't necessarily just catch here on the audio version of the podcast. So with that all said, all that stupid stuff at the beginning, Greg, dude, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's we talk every week, so twice a week or twice in this week's going to be even better. So looking forward to seeing where this is going to go, man.
That's the thing. Yeah, I just before we recorded, that's why I said it's there's no stress. It's almost like our normal calls are usually on Thursday, just a normal Thursday call. We'll just shoot a little conversation here and see what comes up. Testing
Sure.
out this new fandangled software. But first off, man, I want to tell you, yesterday, Riley, my son and I, we went golfing, and we got paired up with a third person, and that person was from Long Island. And
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. And so your name, I just wanted to throw that out there right off the bat. Your name, we were talking about Greg Junge yesterday on the golf course, talking about Long Island. I kind of know the story, but I was trying to tell this or talk to this gentleman, right? That was from the area as well. You're from New York, but the whole Islanders, Jets, Mets versus the Yankees, Giants, and Rangers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell everybody a little bit about that, because that is interesting. So we had that conversation yesterday on the golf course because we were talking about you. And anyways, I'll leave it there. Can you go into that? Tell us a little bit about that, what that is and what that means for those of us that aren't New Yorkers.
Yeah, so growing up in New York, especially on Long Island, there's usually a divide, and it's not like a geographical divide, but it's usually if you're a Yankees fan, typically you're a Giants fan, and you're also a Rangers fan. Now, this is not 100%, but at the same time, on the flip side of that, myself, I grew up a Mets fan, a Jets fan, and an Islanders fan. And there's usually just the way it kind of splits. Those three, baseball, football, and hockey, they just kind of split. Mets, Jets, and Islanders usually are paired together. And then the other side, the bad side, is the Yankees, Rangers, and Giants. Those are usually paired together as well. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because my wife and I were in Puerto Rico a couple of weeks ago, and there are a lot of New Yorkers in Puerto Rico, just like there are a lot of New Yorkers here in Florida. Mandy, she saw this guy with a tattoo on his back, and she wasn't really sure if it was a Mets logo or a Yankees logo because it was pretty far away. And I said, oh, I saw the other side of it. It was a Giants logo with the giant, the football helmet. I was like, pretty sure it's a Yankees logo with the Giants attached to it. And sure enough, he got close enough. I was like, yep, Yankees, Giants. It was actually a really cool tattoo, but it just had the wrong teams on there. So, but yeah, that's just the kind of the split and usually the way it breaks down and growing up on Long Island.
So is that something that you're like taught at a young age? One of the things I talk a lot about on the podcast is just how we're ingrained with things as a young child, and we kind of just grow up with believing certain things, whether it's financial, whether it's education, whether it's all that stuff, right? So is that just something that was in your household that it's like is just like beat into you as a youngster as far as the Jets, the Islanders, and the Mets? I mean, is that kind of how it works?
So, from my experience, the reason I'm a Mets fan is my dad was actually a big Yankees fan, but growing up on Long Island, going to either Queens where the Mets play or the Bronx where the Yankees play, at least back in the 80s, my dad didn't want to take a family of five to Yankee Stadium because it was in a worse part of town than where the Mets played, was Queens. So he took all of our family to Shea Stadium, and that's where basically me and my brother, we became huge Mets fans. And then from there, I have an older brother, so he was a Jets fan. So I kind of became a Jets fan because of him, and he took me to games and such. And then same thing with the Islanders. So it just kind of played out that way for me. But I didn't realize that pattern until I think I moved away from New York and I went to college. And then I realized those three pairings, those teams, and then the other side, those three pairings and those teams. So it wasn't something that we actively really talked about in New York. It just kind of, that was just the way it was. And then once I moved away, I was like, oh yeah, there is kind of a pattern there. And as an adult now, I can definitely recognize that pattern, but it's kind of funny looking back.
I bet it is. And I can honestly, you are now the third person that I've come in association with. I mean, this guy yesterday for like 4 hours on a golf course, but at the same time, right? We had some conversation.
Mhm.
I've met another gentleman named Joel Solomon. I've had him on the podcast as well. He's from also that area as well. And he's the Yankees side, right? And I verified it with him as well. So it's not just something that you're making up. It's like
Mhm.
this guy. So as soon as I brought it up to this gentleman's yesterday on the golf course, his name was Mike. As soon as I brought it up to Mike, he's like, yeah, because he's brought up he was from Long Island. It's like, yeah, I know somebody from up that way. How about, and I started chanting, Jets, Mets, Islanders. And it's like he knew exactly what I was talking about. It was the funniest thing in the whole wide world. So, anyways, I just wanted to just start off. You didn't even know I was even going to ask you that, but I've been thinking about that all day since that happened yesterday afternoon or yesterday morning. I was looking forward to sharing that with you. So to catch that's super cool. So Jets, Mets, Islanders, and I don't even know. I'm going to root for these guys, and I don't have any. I don't really even care if I'm Indianapolis. The Colts, if they're any good, yeah, great. If not, which is usual, yeah. So
Right.
super excited. So moving on, then so one thing that has happened since our episode on episode 20 was that you've actually launched a podcast as well. I don't think that when we talked the last time, we actually got into that. So one thing that I was hoping to maybe do is that obviously I've launched the RichMind Podcast here this year of 2023, and you've also launched a podcast in 2023
Mhm.
called the All In Mindset Podcast, which once again we'll leave some links in the show notes, and we'll talk about that as well. But one thing I thought might be very valuable for the listener is if they're considering doing something like this themselves, right? You and I have had dialogue almost weekly about what you're doing, how you're doing it, what has worked, what hasn't worked. Do you have any words of advice for someone that is considering starting a podcast? What to think about, what to consider before hitting record, like what we're doing today, right? Trying out different softwares, just anything, right? There isn't. I'm not trying to pull out a silver bullet by any means, but at the same time, trying to just get some insights, some things that you've learned through the process of launching your podcast.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you're right. I think when we did record our first podcast episode, I don't think ours was live, but it was definitely going on in the background. But to answer your question, one of the first things that I looked at when I had the idea of, maybe I should be a podcaster is, do I want to do this myself or do I want to do this with somebody else as a, co-host, a partner, a business partner, whatever you want to call it. And I know you landed on the solo host. For me, I rather work with, a partner and not be that lone wolf. I don't think there was a right or wrong. It just kind of fits my personality a little bit better to have somebody else in the room and somebody else I can bounce ideas off of. So for me, that was the one question that I asked, and I answered it pretty quickly is I need a partner in crime to really do this. So that's one thing that I would definitely ask yourself if you're, looking to start a podcast is, what do you want it to look like? Obviously, there are a lot of podcasts out there, so you can really research. If you want to be a solo host, there's plenty of episodes, plenty of podcasts that have solo hosts like yourself. I would definitely recommend people listening to your podcast for that reason, among other reasons. And then if they're looking to do a podcast with a partner, There's plenty of podcasts out there that have two people co-hosting. Some have three, which I think is a little bit much, but whatever works for you and whatever is going to make your experience just that much better. And, your comfortability level is really key, as you know, right? So you have to be comfortable with what you're doing, how you're doing it, and who you're doing it with, whether it's yourself or somebody else. The other thing I would say to, starting a podcast is, you're never going to be 100% ready. I know when we started, we were not anywhere close to 100% ready. We still aren't. But it's just like, it's just like that book, Ready, Fire, Aim, right? You can't be ready for everything. And if you think you're going to have everything perfected, then you're probably never going to start anything, including a podcast. So just start, hit record. It's going to be bad in the beginning, but you get better and better. And, the whole point is just doing it and getting it out there, not being, the Joe Rogan right out of the gates, right?
Yeah, I don't know if we can ever get to be that Joe Rogan status, right? But we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep trying, keep putting content out there. So one thing that I know the answer to this, but I'm just curious about what your thoughts are as far as audio only. Do you record the video as well? I know obviously right now we're having this discussion on video that we will then strip the audio from it. How is it that you go about creating your content?
So we do both at this point, the audio and the video. I will be honest, I don't like the video because it's a little more challenging, or you have to be more aware of what you're doing with your hands, where are your eyes when you're, on a video, as opposed to audio. It's just somebody listening to you. So there's less pressure to look at the camera or make eye contact, but not for too long. There's a lot of those things that I'm still working through and struggling with a little bit. But yeah, we decided to do both just so we can basically put some stuff on YouTube on the video and audio. And then obviously our podcast is on, Spotify, Apple Podcast for audio only. But yeah, we're kind of tackling both at this point. And going back to my earlier point, Ready, Fire, Aim, I'm definitely not ready to be on video. I know there's a lot of things I need to improve on, but it's just one of those things that I'd rather do it and be bad at it than not do it and wonder if I was going to ever be good at it at all.
100%. So we have that conversation, right? I think we've been almost a support staff for each other. Just get it out there, see what happens, see how it, not necessarily be too concerned about the result. Just get it out there and see what happens. So as you've continued on through the process, right? The title, and I've mentioned it already, is the all-in mindset. Can you go into just tell us a little bit about the kind of the topics within the all-in mindset, if folks are curious about what you're producing and the things that you and your partner Justin Dorff are producing over there in the all-in mindset podcast?
Yeah, so our podcast is basically structured around personal development and mindset, and how those two things, if you really embrace them and focus on them, they can really help you achieve all your goals, whatever those are. If they're financial goals, health goals, relationship goals, to us, it's the foundation to achieve any goal. So some of the things that we talk about, we talk about obviously stories from our personal experience, but how they relate to achieving goals. We talk about, addiction, depression, self-talk, regrets, all these things that, kind of come in mindset and personal development. And we kind of strip them down. We really break them down into obstacles, because we all look at these things sometimes as obstacles, and how to overcome those obstacles to really get those things out of the way and allow you to move down the road and achieve those goals. So yeah, it's really focused on personal development and mindset, and how to use those things to really help you, achieve all your goals in life and live the life that you really want to live, not the one that, you're settling for.
Yeah, 100%. So the one thing that I've always enjoyed about listening to you guys is the actionable steps that you give. It's like you'll give a high level topic, right? And you'll both kind of go back and forth with that topic with your guys' opinions and your experiences, but then you'll give some tactical steps on how to improve with whatever the topic is for that particular moment. So I enjoy that portion a lot. Is that something that you have to put a lot of time into thinking through? Or is that more experiential, meaning you just kind of roll with it as far as like the experiences you've been with and just bounce that back and forth with each other? Is there again that dynamic of doing it together with somebody versus me doing it solo, right? It makes it a little bit different. It just makes it sometimes probably a little easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I think in the beginning, we kind of just did a free form conversation. I know in the first probably 5 or 10 episodes, I really didn't prepare like with notes as much as I do now. As far as the experience goes, I think that's the easy part because, Justin is 40 years old. I'm 43. So we do have a lot of these, experiences in life. Not that we've lived all these many years, but, we're not 17. So we do have some, life experience, and that's part of the fun of it too, is because Justin has a little bit more education behind him where it comes to mindset and nutrition, which is things that we kind of tap into as well, at least more education than I do. And I have that real world experience, and so does Justin, so he has kind of both of those prongs, but I have more of the, I guess, the experience. I don't really have the formal education of personal development and psychology that he does, but put us together in a room or on a video, and we can just talk for a very long time. We go on tangents, we tell stories, but it's all to really give the listener, those points that they can take away and really use for themselves in their life.
Yeah, I love it. So one thing that you also do, and this has really been within the last maybe 2, 3, maybe the last month, you give like a 5-minute big topic, right? An actionable step topic. Like you try to deliver it within 5 minutes on Mondays, right? I don't know if do you call it
Mhm.
something specific, like a 5 minute or your Monday mindset reset or something like that, right? I don't know exactly
Mhm.
what the title of it is, but I love that part when you so you guys rotate. You'll do one week and then he'll do the following, right? So that I also enjoy that part of it as well. Has that been hard to do, trying to come up with those kind of topics as well?
Not the topics necessarily. So yeah, it's a 5 minute Monday mindset where we release them every Monday morning, and just to get people started with the week, on a positive note. The topics are not very hard to come up with because usually it's real life stuff that either I'm dealing with or Justin deals with. But for me personally, talking 5 minutes straight, that really took a lot of effort, and it is what it is. I'll say it. Sometimes it takes me, at least in the beginning, it would take me an hour and a half to record a 5 minute episode, just because I couldn't, get the continuity down, or just whatever was blocking in my head. I just couldn't kind of get it all out in one shot. So it's real interesting the what goes on in the back end of producing a podcast, as you know. So 5 minutes is not necessarily 5 minutes, but we do put in some time, behind the camera and behind the scenes to get these things to you guys.
Well, I don't know if I've shared that with you or not, but I actually enjoy those 5-minute snips on Mondays. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a thumbs up for that. Those are pretty cool. But I know based on our conversations that how much effort it goes into producing those 5 minutes as well. So applaud you for that as well, because I just know that's doing this behind the camera, right? Hitting record and going for it. Sometimes it's not as easy as it might appear on the finished back end. So
Mhm.
yeah, kudos to you for getting that done. So just a little bit of a slight pivot, right? And we'll try to wrap this up here for this episode today. But can you give so one the big things, the all in mindset, right, is the health. You talked about health, nutrition, right? You've got a lot of the personal experience versus the classroom book experience, right? And I'm
Mhm.
not saying one's right or one's wrong, but it's like you've taken diverticulitis. Am I pronouncing that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So back on episode 20, folks, we talked about this an issue that you had, diverticulitis, that created a sense of urgency within yourself to really go down this journey of health for yourself. And one thing that I am encouraged by you, having gotten to know you for a year now plus, is that your ability to stick to a goal, to a plan when it comes to your health, when it comes to your wellness, right, is just like it's over the top. I was just curious, do you have any ideas or any tips or tricks? I mean, health and wellness right now, without health, you don't really have much else, right? Any ideas that you could help the listeners with to how do you go about keeping yourself focused, keeping yourself on point, right, with your nutrition, with your goals? I know you've done 75 hard, the fitness program multiple times, and it's not
Mhm.
something that you do that's easy, right? Anyways, I'll throw it back to you. But is there anything that you do, whether it's in your mindset, right, self talk, books that you read, anyways, I'll see what you come up with as far as an answer for that, but what is it that keeps Greg Young on point when it comes to his health and nutrition?
So I think you nailed it when you said, I had that issue in 2021 when I was in the hospital, and Honestly, it scared the crap out of me because aside from breaking a bone playing sports, I'd never been in the hospital before. So it's really scary when you have something internal wrong because it's internal, right? Like you can't see it, you can kind of feel it, but it's not as tangible as going in with like a broken ankle, for example, right? So that really scared me and just changed my life forever because I realized that I never want to be in the hospital like that again. And in reading some books and listening to personal development, I realized, there's a couple of different ways that you can approach having a goal or a big why, right? So you can either run away from the pain, which is, hey, I don't want to be in the hospital anymore or ever again. So that was one of the first things that entered my mind is, well, I'm never coming back here again. What do I need to do to change that? And then the other thing is running towards the positive side, right? Like, what can I turn my life into? How can I embrace health and really make myself healthy on the inside and not necessarily for looks or vanity, which if you do, that's totally fine. But for me, it was, I really want to be healthy on the inside so I can, play sports and travel and not really be hindered by a physical ailment, whether it's internal or external. So that was the biggest thing for me is kind of realizing my why. And I think I had two of them. I was running away from that pain and then running towards what's possible and what can I make possible. And like you said, health is a foundation. And I really took that seriously because I kind of realized that 41 years old in 2021, that I wasn't invincible and something inside my body wasn't working properly. And I had no control over it whatsoever. But I know when I left the hospital, that's when I got the control back. And I never wanted to give up that control moving forward.
And you've had huge success, right? Do I understand that correctly? Like 60 pounds you've lost in the
Mm-hmm.
last 24, 36 months. Is that about right? How long it's been?
Yep. Yeah. Since the beginning of 2020, down about 60 pounds and maintain that. And yeah, like I'm just talking about, I just really dove into health and nutrition, books, podcasts, 75 hard you mentioned. Yeah. Just trying things out and doing different things and really trying to stay consistent and committed. And, if you want to dive into those two topics, we can talk to them as well as regarding the health, if you'd like.
Yeah. So is there any, do you use, so it's like, I know like the Whoop band, right? People wear those sometimes, or there's different apps, there's different just stuff, right? Is there anything like that external that you use to kind of help you keep on track? Or is it more self-guidance, right? Keeping yourself on point.
So more self-guidance for me anyway. I'm a little bit, I don't know why, but I'm a little bit old school. I don't really have any of those devices or wearables or anything like that. So I keep track of everything usually with either a spreadsheet or I track my habits with an app called Habit Share. I believe that's the name of the app. But yeah, you basically track your habits for consistency to stay committed to, it's a good reminder of what do I need to do today? And then behind that is, well, why am I doing it? And like I said, my why is I don't want to be unhealthy. I want to be healthy. I want to see what I can do with my body and kind of create a cool life.
Yeah, of course. Is there one, I'm going to hold you to one, right? Is there one thing that you can like that's made the biggest difference as far as basically just losing the 60 pounds, right? I know it's probably people use the term nutrition, right? But was it eliminating one thing and doing more of something else? Is there one thing that kind of made the biggest difference when terms of you having that much success?
Yeah, for the weight loss, I would say it was mostly diet. I know a lot of people talk about working out and burning calories, and as somebody who plays sports, I'm not an athlete, but I'm athletic, or at least I was, and now I'm becoming athletic again. That may have helped a little bit, but for me, it was diet because I know I was eating, not the healthiest way that put me into the hospital. But once I changed my diet, I literally started feeling better. The pounds just melted away and it was just a no-brainer because knowing what I know now, whatever we put into our body, it's either going to, help us or hinder us or probably be neutral. And I was really stuck in that neutral or hinder stage, going into the hospital. But when I got out, I really took to what's going to help my body. What does my body need? Really went down that road very hardcore. And so for me, it's just diet and staying consistent. Consistency is key with any goal that you're, looking to achieve. Whether it's weight loss or being a good husband, being a good father, whatever it is, you have to be consistent or it's never going to stick. So for me, that was the two things. It was diet and consistency.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that, Greg. As we've gotten to know each other, right? I tell you almost every week, right? But I'm going to say it right now in public to everyone that it's just so cool that you've been able to do that on such a consistent basis, right? I admire you for being able to do that because it's not easy. It's probably one of the hardest things in the whole wide world is to stay consistent with some kind of a nutrition plan. But having the scare that you did is it really is transformed, right? The way you approach and look at life from a health and wellness standpoint. So kudos to you to being able to do that. And then now you're sharing it out there on the All In Mindset podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's super cool. So if folks out there listening are like, Greg is the man, which folks he is, where is it? What's the best place? Where can they find the podcast? Where can they get in touch with you? Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with folks here as we wrap up today?
Yeah, so the easiest way to get a hold of me is Facebook. I'm on Facebook. You can look me up by my name. It's pretty easy. The podcast itself, like we mentioned, it's on YouTube, also on all the major platforms. Spotify and Apple Podcasts are probably the two biggest ones, audio ones. And then if anybody from your audience wants to email me directly, I'm happy to talk about anything we talked about here, mindset, health, goals. My email is greg@all-in-mindset.com.
Well, folks, take Greg up on that. He has been a great friend of mine. We've really gotten to know each other over it's been over a year now, right? So we just have a great time. You're just a great guy, full of wealth of knowledge, and just really willing and able to help a lot of folks out there in terms of finances, as well as mindset, as well as personal development and health and all that, right? So folks, reach out to Greg and get a hold of him on the socials and find the All In Mindset podcast. Search for that on your local app and start following them as well there. So Greg, I appreciate your time today, man. I appreciate you going through this a little bit of an experiment with me here with this new software. We'll see how it turns out. But yeah, definitely appreciate it. We'll definitely get you back on again sometime soon.
Thanks, Randy. Always a pleasure, man.
As always. So folks, go out there, have a fantastic day. And until the next episode, appreciate you being here. Bye now. Thank you for joining me on the RichMind Podcast. I hope you found a ton of value in this episode. If so, I'd really appreciate a 5-star review. And you can also share it with your family and friends. And as my mentor Jim Roden shared with me, in order to have more, you must first become more. And in order to become more, you must work harder on yourself than you do on your job. So go out there today and work harder on yourself to become more and build the life of your dreams. Until next time, my friends.